What is good, YouTube? Today we're going to be drawing Frank Ocean while talking about Frank Ocean. And just a disclaimer, this isn't a realistic drawing. This is just my style. I'd much rather draw things that are weird looking in a very simplistic form, or at least simplistic to me. Because realism is boring. It's like we already got photos. Why do we need to draw photos? So that's what we're going to be getting into today. It was probably a junior in high school at this time. And I remember my sister actually put me onto Frank Ocean. Shout out to my sis. And she was playing Thinking About You in the car. And I remember being like, whoa, this is so sick. What is this? But at the time, I wasn't as invested into music as I am now. Back then, I listened to the song and then, I downloaded it, but that was it. I didn't really care to research and figure out, whoa, who is this artist that I like so much? Why I did that, I don't know. But yeah, so I listened to the song, downloaded it, and back then I had to use the iTunes gift card or whatever it was, and to download music, because I definitely didn't have Spotify back then, and Apple Music wasn't a thing around that time either. And yeah, so that's kind of it. I listened to Thinking About You, and then nothing happened after that. So fast forward to 2014, 2015, I started getting more involved or start listening to more music. Because prior to this, I was listening to a lot of obscure bands. Not obscure bands, but bands that are now, I guess, popular, but at the time were, I guess, niche. Because I was watching skate videos, and so they would put a lot of indie bands in their videos, and that's how I would basically find music, was through skate videos. So a lot of the music I was listening to wasn't hip hop or R&B, besides stuff like old school R&B like Sade or Mint Condition or something like that. But as far as hip hop and contemporary R&B, I wasn't listening to that. And when 2014, 2015 came around, I started listening to more music through the Spotify web browser. And when I discovered that, I was like, wow, I could actually listen to albums. Because before I wasn't listening to albums, I was just listening to songs and downloading them. But Spotify provided, the whole discography of the artists that I like to listen to. So I was listening to stuff like Chance the Rapper, Childish Gambino, and these were the hip hop artists that I was listening to more frequently than all the other hip hop, because once again I wasn't really listening to hip hop like that. And so Chance the Rapper, I think around 2016, Chance the Rapper has this deal with Apple Music, and he basically has this deal where if you download Apple Music, you get to listen to his newest album, which was Coloring Book. You get to listen to that for free. And at this time, I finally got a job. And so I was like, oh, well, no, I'll just do that. And so I get Apple Music and I listen to Chance the Rapper, and I'm like, oh my gosh, it's amazing. But then I realized, wait, this is basically like Spotify. And so I'm like, wait, I'll just download all the albums that I love. So I downloaded all the stuff by Tyler, the Creator, Chance the Rapper, Childish Gambino, all my indie artists that I like. So I basically got access to all the music I love. And 2016, which we all know and love, is the year Frank Ocean dropped. And that essentially is what got me to really listen to Frank Ocean. So prior to this deal that Chance has with Apple Music, I am listening to Channel Orange on the Spotify web browser. But because it's a web browser, it's you got to go to the computer and listen. It's not as accessible or easily accessible as it would be on your phone. And the interface on your phone just isn't that great either. And so before I got this Apple Music subscription, Channel Orange was honestly only played on the Spotify web browser. But when I get access to Apple Music, I'm obviously listening to more of Channel Orange. And while doing that, I really fell in love with his writing. To me, his writing was just so idiosyncratic to him that it just felt so original and unlike any R&B artist that I've ever heard. And so I'm dissecting and unpacking the themes, and I'm just going back for more because I know that there's something else in there that I'm just not fully understanding or unpacking or whatever it is. I'm not getting everything that I want out of it, so I have to keep listening to it. So I basically fell in love with Channel Orange. Now, around this time, I'm still falling in love with Channel Orange. I'm still listening to my favorite artists. But I'm not seeking out the times in which these artists are dropping. I'm kind of just letting them come to me through the grapevine. And it wasn't until I was scrolling on, I think, either Snapchat or Instagram, some social media platform I was looking at, and I see a screenshot of this black and white image, and it says "endless." And then someone, I don't know who, can't remember who it was, but someone, captioned the photo, "He dropped" or something. And it had "endless" in the photo. And so I Google "endless." And I find out that it's a Frank Ocean visual album. I'm like, wait, what? When did he do this? And so I go to Apple Music and I watch the video, and it's 45 minutes of him building this staircase. And I'm just like, what? And I'm listening to the music, but I think I'm just so dumbfounded because I didn't even know he was I didn't even know he was going to drop. And so I'm just watching him build this staircase. Multiple versions of him are building the staircase. And I'm listening, but the music is just kind of washing over me. I'm not really absorbing the music because I'm just so shocked. And I watched the video and then it ends. And I'm like, so wait, is this the album? Is he going to drop a track list eventually after this? What's happening with this? Is this just going to be a video? What is this? And I go to bed because this is around midnight. So I go to bed. And the next day, or I guess later that day, I have to go to a wedding. And I'm the photographer at this wedding. And I have to shoot the reception as well. And so after the reception, I get my brother to help me. After the reception, we're helping the wedding party clean up. And my brother takes a balloon and then he inhales the helium and then he sings the Nike's intro. And I'm like, what is that? And he's like, yo, that's Nike's by Frank Ocean. I'm like, Nike's by Frank? Wait, what are you talking about? I listened to this endless visual album. I ain't hear nothing like that. What are you talking about? He's like, yeah, he dropped a music video. And I'm like, wait, what? What is happening right now? I'm so confused. But I'm still helping, cleaning up after the reception. And by the time we finish with the reception, I get home and I'm exhausted. And the next day, I'm seeing on social media that, yeah, Frank Ocean dropped an album. And I'm like, man, I can't believe this. But for some strange reason, and I don't know the life of me, but it took me a week to listen to Blonde. It took me a whole week to listen to Blonde. I don't know. I think because it was also around the time I was graduating college. So it was very hectic. And I was trying to find, and I was also working. I was trying to find a new job. It was just a lot happening during that time. And so I don't really get a chance to listen to Blonde until my brother's like, bro, you need to listen to this album. It's so good, so good, so good. I'm like, okay. So then I think it's a Friday night or Saturday night. And, I'm chilling. I'm like, let me listen to this album that my brother's harassing me about. And so I listened to the album. Now I'm gonna be so real with you. I was not feeling it. I mean, it was cool, but it wasn't Channel Orange. And Endless was a different beast altogether because that's just something that I was not expecting. At Your Best was cool, but it was just so different from what I was listening to at the time that Endless and Blonde kind of just took me by surprise, and I didn't connect with it immediately. Nights, though, when I first listened to Nights, I was like, yo, this is incredible. That was probably my favorite. And then Siegfried, I hated Siegfried when I first listened to it. I thought it was boring. And then Futura Free, it was also a song that like I liked, but the ending was so jarring. I was like, what is this? Because at the time I just wasn't into that kind of stuff. So I'm listening to Blonde more and more, and it's slowly starting to connect with me. Like I'm starting to understand the themes. I'm starting to understand this idea of childhood, but it's still to me not as good as Channel Orange. Like it's getting better the more I listen to it, but it's still, to me, Channel Orange was his magnum opus. And it's only, so that essentially that happens, and then a year later, 2017 comes around, and Frank starts dropping singles, and I'm actually liking the singles more than I'm liking Blonde. But as I'm listening to the singles, I'm hearing remnants of Endless and Blonde in them. And I'm like, no, there's something in Endless and there's something in Blonde that I'm not absorbing. And it's because I'm not accepting this new direction that Frank is going into. And so I actively listen to Endless, and I read the lyrics. And when I read the lyrics, I was just so blown away. I mean, I was like, this man is a poet. I'm hearing the double, triple entendres. I'm hearing the references, especially to like songs like Unity, to Chirac and Palestine, to the Fugees. Like, I'm listening to Blonde and I'm hearing, this voice of an individual that is so okay with the loss of love. He's accepted essentially that he has no control over what happens to him. All he can control is how he deals with the loss. I mean, to me, that was just so powerful that I just couldn't believe that I hadn't recognized those themes and that the level of lyricism that he was contributing to the albums, So come 2018, I've become fully obsessed with Endless, fully obsessed with Blonde. It's all I listen to. Going to work, coming from work, on breaks, on walks. Endless, Blonde, consistently in my ear. And then I get a notification on Google, and it says that there's a podcast that dissects Endless, Blonde, Channel Orange, basically dissects Frank Ocean as a person. And I'm like, oh, I need to get on this immediately. This is a gold mine. And it's the podcast Dissect by Cole Kushner. Now, Cole Kushner, I doubt you're watching this, but if you are, you have fundamentally made me a Frank Ocean fiend. Everything about Frank Ocean I needed to absorb. His projects, his interviews, his features. Nothing would satisfy me. Now, I knew about Nostalgia Ultra, but given my newfound obsession with Frank Ocean, I went back and listen to the project in its entirety. Now, I might get hate for this, but it's not my favorite. I have about half the songs from the project downloaded. But the songs that I do have downloaded are some of my favorite Frank Ocean songs. We All Try, American Wedding, Strawberry Swing. I mean, these are songs for women. I mean, Novocaine, Swim Good. These are bangers, And, I went down the rabbit hole and found some other unreleased stuff that I've downloaded. I have a whole album of unreleased songs by Frank Ocean. And so, yeah, I think ultimately through a lot of listening and dissecting and just understanding him as an artist, it's made me a Frank Ocean fan till I die. I even joined the Reddit, in the Frank Ocean Reddit. Some of y'all who may be watching this might be on the Frank Ocean Reddit. Y'all know how desperate we are for a new Frank Ocean project. But yeah, I think ultimately being a Frank Ocean fan means that you have to be patient. You have to understand his work ethic. You have to appreciate his level of technicality to the degree that it will probably take him forever to produce something that he is going to love as much as he loves Blonde. Because it was 4 years after Channel Orange, and it's gonna be 10 years next year. And so if it took 4 years for him to make Blonde, there's no telling what his new project's gonna be. Now, we know that Frank was working on his Homer project for 3 years, and he released it in 2021. So that would have had to put him to started working around 2018. And so that probably aided in the delay of, an album. Because we know that he was working on a project around 2019, 2020, but it was scrapped because of COVID and because the loss of his brother. But he was still working with the Homer brand, and that's still released in 2021. And so with recent news with him working on a movie and his lead being confirmed, and also the distributor being A24, I really think that we're gonna have to wait for a project. I think if he does have an album, I think he releases it before the movie, maybe after. I'm hoping that it's not a soundtrack. I'm hoping that it's a project that stands on its own, and his movie stands on its own. Now, of course, I think if he does do a soundtrack, it could still be cohesive. I don't see any issue with that. But I think I do want I want two different things, right? I like almost like Endless and Blonde, where he did a visual album to get out of his deal, and then he dropped a new album. But I think the two albums were essentially kind of had tackled similar themes. I think Endless is probably more nostalgic than Blonde. I think Blonde deals more with the nostalgia of love, and I think Endless is just more about nostalgia. But that's just my take. But yeah, I'm really excited to see what he does. I think there's just so much that he hasn't done. There's just so much that he hasn't said that I think the movie and hopefully this album that, he said that he's working on. He said that he had an album ready to put out, but he just hasn't done that. So, we can only really see with our eyes when it actually happens. But yeah, I'm just hoping that whatever project he does, it stands, which I think it will stand the test of time. I think it's just a lot of pressure, because when you have a project like Blonde that has been out for just too long, people have gotten too close to it. It's become this thing that I don't think you can beat immediately. But yeah, this is my drawing of Frank Ocean, Lonnie Bro, as some of you know him. And I'm planning on doing other artists. I want to do Bad Bunny. I want to talk about him because I have a few takes on his artistry. I want to do K Tronada. I want to do Knowledge, or specifically No Worries, with him, with Knowledge and Anderson .Paak. And any other artists that you guys want me to draw too, let me know in the comments. I want to be put onto some new artists as well. So I'd love to talk about those artists that you guys mentioned in the comments. So yeah, this was fun. See you in the next one.